obviously we took Abdul, so really excited about adding another pass rusher to the organization. Great kid. We spent a lot of time with him. We've been in constant communication with him. I know you guys asked last time about the foot. We feel good about the foot where he is. He's been running, been working out. So we're not really concerned with that at this point. But again, we're just excited to add a really good football player to the organization, and it's really going to help our defense moving forward.
You guys took a lot of time on the clock. How much were you contemplating, taking phone calls, contemplating other things at that spot?
Yeah, we were high-fiving and hugging, and that's what that was, yeah. And then we got him on the phone, and yeah, so we took about 5 minutes there, and we were just talking and hanging out, enjoying the moment, really.
When did you realize that this would be a possibility, that this is kind of the guy you were going to likely land on, and did the action before you at 2? Like, when did you hear about that, and did it kind of change anything for you guys?
Yeah, it seemed like it, just in terms of the order of the draft, it shifted probably around that Colorado Pro Day. That's really when Travis going number 2 really started to catch steam, because a lot of time before that, it felt like Abdul was going to be the pick at 2. So as we went through our process with all the players that were in the mix, and again, we went through a thorough process, through the entire draft, and we had a pretty good sense probably on Wednesday that this was going to happen. We had caught wind of the Jacksonville-Cleveland thing, so we've known that was probably going to happen for a couple days here. So we just didn't know, which way Jacksonville was going to go.
Dave's.
Yeah.
For an offensive guy, it looks like you have a pretty big smile on your face. Talk about everything you love about Abdul.
Yeah.
Talk about the process, everything that you attracted to this young man.
I had a chance to get some breakfast with him when I went down to Penn State to visit my daughter for her parents' weekend that we had lined up. And in the morning, when we were getting ready to leave, I went to a little breakfast spot down there at Penn State that I've been to a few times. And we had a great breakfast, great meeting. He's a great kid, and he's an exceptional player. He's got great quickness, bend. He's hard to block. He played off the ball the year before, and he has some instincts in that area as well. Smart. Just had a really good meeting with him, and then he was up here. Fun guy to evaluate. You look at him from an offensive perspective and things that, I think we might have to do if we ever had to play against him, which we have certain guys in our division that are similar to that. But he's coming in. He's going to do everything he can to help us out, and he'll start from ground zero with us and Shane and Charlie. But he's got a great personality. He's a lot of fun to be around, and he's a good football player.
Dave, if you don't mind, just when he was in a building, did he kind of engulf everything, the whole history of the Giant linebacker tradition, anything like that? Did he kind of?
Yeah, I think you guys saw that. He put something out there. But he's going to have to be Abdul and do the things we need him to do. But I think he has position flexibility. I think he can do a variety of things. He's extremely athletic for a big guy. He's played on the edge. He's played off the ball. How we deploy him. We have to get him here and work with him. But smart. He's got a great personality. And, he was a fun guy to evaluate. He's a tough guy to block.
The fact that he had only 1 year at defensive end, does that give you a feeling that his ceiling, that he's not even close to his ceiling at that position with more experience that he's going to gain?
Well, I mean, you saw what he can do when he's rushing and on the edge, and the issues that he creates with his get off and bend. It's really unique. So, again, that was his first year, but he's an exceptional athlete. Just really look forward to working with him. Very happy that we had the opportunity to get this guy.
Joe, was he the number 1 player on your board?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into who's where on our board, but we are ecstatic to have him.
Top 3, I would assume.
Obviously, he was in the top 3. He was definitely in the top 3.
Do you, both of you guys, offense, quarterbacks, and scoring more points, that's all important. But at this point, is there anything wrong with developing an identity as a really, really good defensive team? And where do you think you are with this addition to being a team that you could say, we're a top 5, we're a top 10 defense?
Yeah, we're in phase 1 of our offseason program and have 1 draft selection. So let's get him here. Let's get him into our defense. Again, I would say there's a lot of happy people that he was there upstairs with Shane and Charlie. And we had Andre Patterson, who's coached the defensive line a long time, and really take a look at him. And we're happy that we have this young man to help us, and we're going to try to do everything we can do to help him. But there's a long way to go here.
You made it sound like it was an easy decision. Just curious, how much of a consideration was quarterback at 3?
Yeah, it's as long as the process is, Dan, you go through it. This wasn't an easy decision, but throughout the process, it became an easy decision that led us to today. So there's a series of events, meetings, it's a very detailed process. Again, pro days, privates, breakfasts that Dave's had with him. So it leads up to it, makes it an easy decision on draft day.
Joe, you mentioned that at the Colorado Pro Day, the draft seemed to take a turn, and the idea that Travis would end up there. How much more did you guys put into your evaluation of Abdul at all at that situation when you kind of got the sense that maybe he was going to be sitting there for you instead of Hunter?
Yeah, Abdul's one of those guys that, as a true freshman, jumped off the film. If you're just watching anybody against Penn State, he's playing off the ball. He's moving at a different speed than everybody else. So as personnel folks, you're always, man, who's that freshman? Like, kid at Ohio State this year, that receiver, like that guy's jumping off the film already. So he was one of those guys. So he was on our radar from early on in August. Like, we got to go see Penn State. We have to go see this guy play. And I was able to see him live at against Ohio State. I was able to see him live, in the Orange Bowl against Notre Dame. So he was always a guy that was on our radar. That is a special talent. And again, we were just fortunate, to be able to land him.
You already have Kayvon and Brian Burns obviously on the edge. How do you, what's the vision? Like, how do you guys expect to make that work? And the natural assumption by some people is going to be, they're going to trade Kayvon. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to exercise his 5th-year option. We've already told him that. That was earlier this week. So, I know that stuff's out there. But, like, again, you can just throw anything at the wall right now and people go with it. So, Kayvon's going to be here. We're excited to have him. I mean, you can't have enough pass rushers. So, between those guys coming off the edge, Dex in the middle, Nacho, Roy Roberts-Harris, I'm excited about the D-line. We added Ledbetter, so Chauncey Golston. Like, there's some, we're turning the corner where there's some depth at some of these positions, and that'll really help us. So I'm excited about the group. Again, again, we're phase 1, so, Shane and his staff and Dave's will get together and, figure out the creativity of how they're going to utilize the personnel.
How seriously did you, make an attempt to trade up to number 1? And was there any point you felt you came close, or was Tennessee not interested?
Yeah, we've had conversations going up and back, and again, just it takes 2 to tango in those situations, and yeah, there wasn't any. Tennessee, stayed and took Cam Ward.
So you done for the night?
We'll see. Yeah, and you always ask if you guys can go home. Yeah, you guys can. Whatever you got to do your job. I'm never going to tell somebody how to do their job.
Joe, you mentioned obviously you can't have enough pass rushers, but just knowing obviously the history of this, and Brian, you can answer stupid, knowing the history of this franchise with great pass rushers, how exciting is it to just kind of add Abdul to that mix, knowing what this team has historically done with good pass rushers?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking on the way down just in terms of adding, dogs and a certain type of mentality, and I would say 2 years in a row with Malik's competitiveness and the toughness that he plays with, and then you add another guy like that in the first round, like Abdul Carter, and the motor he plays with and the toughness and the violence. That's that can really help. The identity question was mentioned. That can help develop an identity. Those type of players, and the more of those guys that you can acquire, the more that can come to life.
In regards to using Abdul, can you envision stuff with the 3 of them together? I'm talking about Kayvon and Brian Burns. Like, is that something you guys have thought about, can envision?
Yeah, potentially. Yep.
I guess pitch that to Abdul, I guess when you were talking about his fit, what did you tell him about how he fit in with that trio?
Well, I would say Charlotte it's not recruiting. You're not recruiting athletes to come and they get to choose. You get to choose them. But we had very good conversations with him. Again, he's played multiple spots. Off the ball linebacker, moved and was very productive on the edge. And he's a very intelligent player. So, again, once we get him here and he gets ingrained in our system and gets to be around all the guys, there's a long time here before we actually get going here. But, we're excited to have him.
What type of conversations you've already had about moving up from 34, and is that what you plan to go and make a lot of phone calls about that now?
This is an interesting draft, so I'm actually excited to go see who's been taken so far because I have no idea. It's going to be interesting. So, yeah, we'll see how the night goes. We'll see. Obviously, we're not far from the back end of the the first round, so we we have 5 or 6 players that when we talk about, hey, if they're there, we could talk about it, or we're sitting in a good position tomorrow. When you have the second pick in the second round, people sit around all day on Friday and they fall in love with guys, so you can also turn that into multiple picks as well. So there's a couple different avenues. I'm just excited to go up there again because we've been so focused on what we're doing. I haven't really heard a lot of rumors on what's going to go on behind us. So I'm excited to it's a great time of year for us. It's fun. We put a lot of work into it, so it's fun to see how everything goes and sit up there with the scouting staff and personnel guys and just see what other other teams thought of players. So it's a fun weekend. Thanks.